Well, hey, welcome to another episode of Sauna Talk. And before I get into the introduction, I want to let you know about a contest. All you have to do is share this post of the article on saunatimes.com on Facebook or Instagram and tag two of your friends. That's all you got to do. And that's considered a submission. And by the end of February, hopefully you're listening, it's still February 2020. The very last minute of February will be the close of this contest. And we're going to select a winner from the random set of entries. And what you're going to be winning here is 2 passes for the Cedar and Stone Sauna, rooftop hot tub and spa access at Inn on the Lake, and 1 free drink package at Vikra Distillery, just a few blocks away, buy one, get one, and lodging, a night stay at Inn on the Lake. It's like about a $400-something value, so it wouldn't take much. Just share the post on Facebook and Instagram by the end of February. So I'd like to introduce you on this podcast to Justin Juntunen, a Finn by ancestry, and there are many Finns by ancestry in Minnesota, specifically in northern Minnesota, and Justin is very in tune to his ancestry, and it's exemplified through what he's doing with sauna and bringing sauna to the people of Duluth in such a beautiful, reviving type of a way. With a magical sauna, and you'll hear about it. You'll hear about the craftsmanship and the work and the build process for his Cedar and Stone sauna. I happened to be up in Duluth, Minnesota, and really scheduled my trip to sit with Justin in his new sauna, which is deployed right next to the Lake Superior, the world's largest freshwater lake. He has a partnership with a fabulous hotel property right in Canal Park, the Inn on Lake Superior, where I stayed the night before. And I was really reminded of my trip to Finland with this experience. I was tooling around in Finland 12 days, 50 different saunas, and I'd come into town at night and kind of get a preview of the saunas that I'd be visiting the next day. And that's what happened with me the other night when I pulled into town. It was such a warm feeling to see Justin's new sauna, dimly lit, really elegantly lit, soft light as I pulled into the parking lot between the 2 hotels, and I'm like, man, he did it. It was such a fabulous experience to have a familiar reminder of this thing that we all love, this authentic, great sauna, kind of sitting there, quiet, waiting for use, waiting for our visit the next day, which was a magical day. And you can see in the photos it was sunny and very Duluth-like. The lake was just beckoning us right in front of the hotel and right in front of the lake. You won't even notice that this is a mobile sauna. It's so well designed. The wheels hide. It's on a chassis, an ice fish house chassis, and the virtue of these is that they drop down right on grade. So when you see this unit deployed there, you kind of get an idea that this may be a permanent structure, but it's not. It's part of a fleet of North American mobile saunas that are being deployed in so many great areas: Maine, Minneapolis, Duluth, Bend, Oregon. The list goes on and on. There's others building saunas mobile all over as we speak. This revolution is happening, and I'm so overjoyed to be in Duluth to sit down with Justin and share this with you. His passion toward the integrity of good sauna and what it means culturally and community. So yeah, without further ado, I just wanted to give you that intro. I'm real excited to let you hear straight from Justin his his connection to Duluth and raising the temperature and awareness of good sauna. This episode of Sauna Talk is sponsored by Lampa Manufacturing from Tower, Minnesota. Lampa Manufacturing, the mastermind behind the Kuma sauna stove products, is a small family-owned company that believes in always making the best units they know how and continues striving to make them better and safer. Sauna Times offers a wide selection of Kuma products for all your authentic sauna building needs. My history goes back at least 25 years. I've owned 2 Kuma stoves that I bought new, one in 1996, the other in 2003, and both are running as well as the day I purchased them. They are built like tanks, and they produce the best heat that I've ever experienced. I'm very pleased to partner with Lampa Manufacturing as an authorized distributor for the products, and they can be ordered on saunatimes.com. You look at the top on the shop button, and we're very happy to provide these wonderful sauna stoves for you. Another personal note I'd like to share is I had the good fortune to have Daryl Lampa on the podcast. You can search Sauna Times podcast, and you'll hear from probably one of the top experts in the world about wood burning and the process of it, the clean burning, the efficient burning, sustainable heat source. So check it out, and welcome to this episode of Sauna Talk. So you like to sit there?
Yeah.
Is that your home spot?
Well, between here and there, when I'm guiding sessions, this is built for having a full room, and then I can teach people
off the bow.
Right.
Yeah. So we're here in Duluth, Minnesota, and why don't you come on over here? Come to think of it,
easier
for audio. Yeah. I just want to describe to you listeners here where we are and who I'm with. I'm just going to tee the ball up that. It's February, 4th, 5th, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's January. I mean, it's cold. It's like a little bit of chill, but it's bright, sunny day, and I'm looking at the big lake they call Gitchigumi, Lake Superior, and the harbor. We're at Inn on the Lake in Canal Park, Duluth, Minnesota, USA, and I'm sitting with
Justin Juntunen.
And Justin, where are we sitting? Like, in what are we sitting?
Yeah, Glenn, you're sitting in my dreams coming true right now. You are in Cedar and Stone Nordic Sauna, a new community sauna here for Duluth and the North Shore and the north of Minnesota, the north of right on Lake Superior. And so we're kicking off, and I couldn't think of a better person to do a test run and invite to come up here before we invite the rest of the country and the rest of the world to join us. I've been looking forward to this. Thanks for being here.
Honored. Thanks for having me. You know, it's funny how everything seems to always work as it relates to sauna. It's a monumental, a momentous occasion because you just brought this sauna here to this location a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're setting up for our winter spring residency here, looking at Lake Superior, and our sauna, we designed with beautiful panoramic windows to look out at Lake Superior. We designed it to partner with hotels and accommodations, and we designed it for quality. So we have a Kuma stove in here heating us up right now, and just really thoughtful sort of detailing throughout. It's happening.
Let's go way back. Just for your listeners, that's where we are. That's what we're doing. We're on the bench. This is where I love to record Sauna Talk episodes, as you guys know. And I love recording them. I love recording and having guests that have a deep-rooted passion toward the sauna experience. It's really been this continuity of all guests on Sauna Talk. and Justin fits that mold like perfectly. His passion and roots of sauna go way back. Let's start with that, if you don't mind, Justin. Your last name is very Finnish, and that's cool. You live in a place where there's a lot of history to sauna. When did you first get exposed to sauna? Dating back in your life.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I grew up in this space. And I grew up as a little boy, down on the floor in a bucket when we were just tiny. And then on up from there with Dad and Grandpa and friends. And so sauna's really been a pretty integral part to our family culture. And then I also happened to grow up in a small town in northern Minnesota, Esko, Minnesota, which is historically a small Finnish community. And so generations ago, my family was one of the founding families that homesteaded there. And here we are now in Duluth, Minnesota. So Glenn putting a little steam on. So really, it's always been a part of my life. And I think in true Finnish fashion, we've been great protectors of the cultural gift that is sauna. If you've ever heard somebody correct you or try to correct you on how to pronounce that word, sauna or sauna, you've run into a good Finnish preservationist. And yet, I think the thing that when those Finns came over and they were immigrants, on this shore, and literally right here, the beach that we're on, there used to be a public sauna 100 years ago. And in this neighborhood, it used to be called Finntown because there were so many immigrants. And they had the worst jobs in the docks and the mines and the mills. And so community sauna was the thing because they didn't have resources. They didn't have a cabin or... They didn't even have a house, right? And so community sauna was the way to do it.
For working class Finns.
For working class Finns when they moved to the U.S.
And that parallels Helsinki, all cities in Finland. The public saunas in Helsinki, there were many, I want to say over 100, and all the apartment buildings, none of the apartment buildings had plumbing, so it was the community gathering spot, and Duluth is very analogous to the cities in Finland in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, it's not only in my roots personally, but also my family heritage. And then I've just watched the history of it here in Duluth kind of shift from public to private, right? And so if we do our history research the past 100 years, it's gone from these public spaces to then those Finns homesteading farms and buying homes, and the sauna went there. And then eventually, somewhere along the way, somebody probably bought a cabin and they put the sauna by the lake. And that's sort of the pinnacle for a lot of people of the experience. And now what we're seeing, and you've talked so much about this, is reviving this public expression, the community expression, the sauna that is the third space. And that's what we're up to here in Duluth. And I think the heritage of it makes it a really interesting place to do that, knowing that in Duluth, there was at one time upwards of 10 other public saunas dotting the hillside and along the shoreline here in Canal Park.
Yeah. So, Justin, staying with the chronology, you grew up with sauna as part of your DNA and your family's DNA. When did this idea start to incubate in your mind? The idea of doing this sauna, this mobile sauna, and activating a public space.
Yeah, I think for me, there's been a couple key markers along the way. And one was just being somebody who loved hospitality, loved inviting people. And so we would build a sauna at almost every house I lived at growing up and at lake cabins and properties. And at one of those, we built a sauna and we kept inviting friends and family. And we would then inevitably find people who had never experienced a more authentic Finnish sauna experience.
But still in a private setting.
Still in a private setting, but what was happening was, new folks coming in, and then I would find myself guiding people through it. And that was, my background's in education and nonprofit work, and so there were years there where we just would host people and guide people, and along the way we developed people who began to love it because they actually experienced the best of it, maybe for the first time.
Yeah. So for listeners, can you give an example of how you would guide folks new to sauna? Like what's a nuance or an example of something that you would do or you do?
Yeah, I think great guides, just like any tour guide, if you've ever been on a tour and you've been captivated by it, it begins with story to me.
Okay.
And so if you have a tour guide or if you have a sauna guide who helps you and invites you into the story, which is sauna, that's the key. Now there's a lot of different stories to tell.
Right. So it starts with the voice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so what I do is I often help get a sense of, hey, where are people at? Have you ever done this before? What have you heard about sauna before? And I'm interacting with them a little bit.
And this is on the bench?
This is either on the bench or sort of standing with them or before we enter the hot room, because the hot room for some people can be, new or abrasive or unnerving as they come in, and, hot air in their lungs is a little different. And so I'm sort of casting the vision for what are we about to do together? And I say things like, well, for somebody who doesn't know at all, I never even use the word sauna to begin with. I say, in my life, there's a little bit of stress. And I joke around with them and I say, probably not yours, but in mine, I got some stress. I got work, kids, life, it comes with some stress, right? And as I do that, they're sort of thinking, oh yeah, I got stress in my life. I get it, right?
You're drawing them in through that.
Yeah. And then I would say, well, also one thing I know about my city is that it's cold a lot of the time. And the only place that I've found that really relieves both really well. It de-stresses me. It works tried and true every time. And they're just sitting on the edge of their seat. What's this guy talking about? I say, oh, it's actually the Nordic sauna, more commonly pronounced that way. But then I say, or as my family would pronounce that, sauna, because that's a practice from Finland, my homeland, that I've grown up with, that for some reason, as we go through the process, I feel so de-stressed along the way. I feel so healthy. I warm to the core, and I probably have the best night of sleep that I've had in weeks or months since the last time I sauned. And if you set the table in language that they can understand, you're not talking about this niche thing that you're doing over here that's interesting to you. You've brought them into the story of, can I invite you into this space that for me in my life is healthy and relieves stress? And I want to offer that to you.
Beautiful.
So start it there, and then let's get into the nuance of, okay, now you're in the space, what's happening, right? I don't begin with starting with Finnish words other than sauna, but sure, we'll dive deep into the pronunciation and definition of loulu and many other things, but begin in words they can understand and start there.
Very good. Lovely. Back to the chronology of this project. You get it in your mind and take us forward from the thought. Like, we talking years that you've kind of thought this, right?
We're coming up on a decade here. Before my wife and I moved back to Duluth, we took a trip in Scandinavia. Again, my family's from there, and we spent time in Finland for a couple weeks, and over there we did multiple public saunas, one of which was a floating sauna on the Baltic. And that year, they had done a commissioned series of saunas, these art saunas that were all over the country.
I remember that. Hit some water, do you mind?
Yeah.
Keep going.
And as that was happening...
This is like chewing gum and biking at the same time. Justin's telling his story and tossing water on us. One more, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
We're in Finland, and we find this floating sauna experience, and we get into this rowboat with a Finnish man, and he rows us out into the middle of the Baltic to this raft, and we sauna and swim, and sauna and swim. And Glenn, it was majestic. Like, it was magical and memorable, and it was that, like, one of those moments where you're like, this day I'm going to remember.
Yeah.
And that day I thought, if there's ever a city that could do this in the U.S., Duluth has a shot to do it. Yeah. And there's other great examples, and I'm all for activating sauna experience all over the country. I just think Duluth has a great history of it, and so we're doing it here. So 8 years ago, the seed was planted. We moved back to Duluth and then fell in love with this city that's burgeoning, that's built around access to the outdoors.
Yeah.
The people who live here choose to live here because they want access to world-class mountain biking trails, the world's largest freshwater lake, great skiing in the winter, all of these amenities, especially for wellness and outdoors culture. And you don't have to drive 30 minutes. You don't have to drive into the mountains to get to them.
You don't have to fight traffic like you would in Denver to go ski.
Absolutely. And hey, Denver folks, you're great. Here, the access is just quicker, right? And so that's the city we sort of stumbled back into and fell in love with. And in these past 8 years, I've just become more and more convinced that here is the place to do it. And then for me, it's the right time. And that was a process of probably 2 years of really doing inner work. If you're going to dive into the work of entrepreneurship, of starting anything really, it's going to draw a lot out of you. And I went through a ton of process of trying to say, hey, what do I really want? Not just what should I want in life? What should I do? What should other people say how I live my life? But I kind of went into some deep places with some guided and supported process, through some therapy, through some religious and spiritual direction from good, trusted counselors and wise folks around me, and began asking that question, what do I really want? And the answer that was bubbling up was the flourishing of Duluth. It was a call and a commitment to my city. And so here we sit, committed to the flourishing of my city. That's the why. And the how? Well, the how is through community sauna, teaching people about this practice, guiding people through it, having the kind of conversations that Sauna Talk is built around, which is meaningful moments with people, and the barriers are sort of dropped right away. You know, you come into these spaces and nobody's the doctor and the lawyer and the janitor and the teacher. You come in and you're you, and you get to be, and you feel the heat, and you are present.
Yeah.
You're forced to be present in the heat.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah.
Now, how do you be present together? You bear the heat, you enjoy the heat, you sweat together, and inevitably good conversation is going to come from it.
Yeah. If I could just chime in on that. Lovely. Agreed. There's two things. In Finland, you know, everyone is equal in sauna. I mean, that's a very common term, and it applies in the United States as well.
Yeah.
Because heat is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
The heat we're feeling right now is no different than Isa Tikkanen is feeling right now in Turku or wherever that may be. Yeah. So it's very egalitarian. And the other cool thing is about being in the present moment is, it's a beautiful space when you're in nature and with the heat and the cold. There is no opportunity for one's mind to go to other places. Yeah. And where I see this really evidently is when those go to sauna in the public domain, and there's a little bit of nervousness to fill the gap of the quiet. Yeah. Oftentimes people try to default toward the question of, so what do you do? And what I love about that is I see it, and I don't take umbrage on people that do that. I get it. But what's so beautiful is the person that's forced to try to answer that. I love it. They stammer. Like people stammer, and they don't. They're like, and you could just tell that, like,
because usually they have a pat answer for it. They got like their 3 lines. They say, boom, boom, boom. This is what I do.
Director of Health Sciences at St. Scholastica or whatever like that, and they can get that out. But that's kind of, you can just hear it in their voice. Like they want it to end right there. Yeah. And I think that people asking those kind of cocktail reception questions have to reset themselves a little bit, and I catch them. They're like, "Oh shit, that was a dumb question. Let's talk about this moment instead," and it becomes a little more meaningful.
Or for me, I think the better follow-up is then, well, what do you love about it? It's a deeper version of the question of why you got into it, what you care about, your passions, your purpose, your hopes and dreams. That maybe can start with that easier question of, well, what do you do? Yeah. And then it gets you into the real quality space.
Yeah. It's sort of that nervous. It's not nervous. It's just the dead air of what Sauna Talk is so cool about is the dead air that gets filled by questions. Are usually questions about the moment instead. Like, oh, is it? Look at, is it hot in here? Or do you know those people outside? Or do you want some more water on the rocks? Which I'd say yes to.
You'd say yes to. Great.
Yeah. So I like that, and I didn't mean to dive too deeply against what you're saying, but it does parallel this present moment thinking.
It does, and when I think about the best sauna moments, it is being in the present with those people around me, and I love it, and I watch people begin to start loving it when they understand the story that they're in. Because when you walk into a sauna that's in the back of your gym or adjacent to the pool at the hotel, nobody's said anything about what to do or how to do it or why you're here. And so most people go in and they do their workout, and then they go at the end of their workout, they sit for 4.5, 5 minutes, they say, okay, I'm a little sweatier. Now what? and then they leave, right? And then they go shower. And in that moment, they haven't experienced Finnish sauna. They haven't experienced the broader practice of it. They've just experienced the start. And you and I know this, that sauna is much more than a hot room. It's this process of hot, cold, rest, rehydrate, and repeat. And as you do those rounds with people or alone, even if you're alone enjoying the heat and in the silence, you know, I think those things change you. Analogous to maybe like stretching. That person who goes in for 4.5 minutes at the end of the workout is like they just started to stretch and they can't reach their toes. But after round 2, stretch a little more. After round 3, like you're holding on to your toes, you're excited, you're feeling loose, you're feeling good. And I think that's what sauna does, especially when you do the more all-encompassing process.
Beautiful. So moved back to Duluth 8 years ago. You kind of get this budding concept of a sauna project. Take us forward from there.
Yeah, multiple different iterations and ideas of ideas coming forward, and one of that was all that inner work. And then along the way, I start wanting to commit to my city. And at the time, I had been working for a nonprofit that who'd been working all over the country with startups, mostly in faith communities, folks who are caring about their city and want to go and build a faith community and start a faith community, often through churches. So it was called church planting. And these folks were doing work in their city, and I felt like I was doing work in everybody else's city than my own. And so I sort of asked and discerned and spent a lot of time in silence and a lot of time doing self-awareness work and assessing my strengths and my weaknesses, because if you're going to do this well, you want to be able to do it for the long haul. And again, I felt like not only was the door open, but I was being nudged through it. And it was this, hey, you've been called to do this. You've been built for a purpose like this. Hey, there's an opportunity here, and not just an opportunity, I'm inviting you to do this and start this. And so that, you know, if you're somebody out there who's, you know, thinking about starting a sauna business, to me, it's get crystal clear on your mission and your vision and your why, because I'll be honest with you, Glenn, there are really hard days. We talk about this as wellness work, and it sounds really great, but you know, the hundreds of hours, the multiple years, the significant roadblocks that we face to get here and sauna together right now are nothing to scoff at. And so if you just dive in and say, I got a cool idea, it looks like it's working over here, let's do it, let's start building, that's great. You need starters like that, you need activators, but you want to also have people to ground the mission to be in this for the long haul. Because I would say I'm committed to this experience, this experiment for a decade or more. I'm committed to changing the culture and the temperature of Duluth. And if that's the case, I need to be ready to weather some hard days and weeks and really low lows. When you start a business, if anybody started a business, I mean, you feel high highs one day and low lows the next day, and sometimes those are in the same day and they're back-to-back phone calls or text messages.
Yeah, well said.
And the thing we're doing here is a great example of that it isn't always pretty work, even though our website looks great, even though we've taken good photos, even though we got guys looking at us from outside walking on the shore right now, and we're waving to them, and they're coming to check out what the heck is going on
all
here.
bundled up.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, these are the glory moments. These are the glory moments where we are sharing time on the sauna bench and doing layups. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is layup work. Yeah, so a lot of grunt work. And you leaned into this, I want to say maybe, 10 months ago?
Yeah, I think we've actively been moving towards this for 2 years. The build process started probably 9-10 months ago. And along the way, I met you, Glenn. You know, I was following you for a while, and you did an event up north here, and I said, hey, I got to talk to you, Glenn. I got some vision. I got a dream. Yeah. Justin and I met
at Sauna Days 2019 at Larsmont Cottages, just south of Two Harbors, north of Duluth, Minnesota. And he zeroed in on me, and Justin said, I want to talk with you, right? And I was like, great. He has wife, young kids. They were doing hot rounds, cool rounds. And it was, we weren't able to really zero in well, have focused time together. But, I've had a fair number of those encounters with people from all over. And
they want to zero in and talk about sauna and activating and all that. But the difference with this guy sitting right here is he friggin' did it. I mean, and not just did it, but created. I don't want to put a label on this sauna. All I can say is you gotta come up here and to Duluth, Minnesota, and experience it, because I came in last night, and I'll put this video on the show notes, but I was reminded of my time in Finland, where I pull into town, it's dark at night, and to see a sauna of this caliber activated at this space right by the shores of Lake Superior. I mean, it's an emotional thing for me to see it, and it isn't even my sauna. So I was just like, I haven't saunaed in a couple of days, but I'm telling you, all day today I've been like, I can't wait to get on the bench. I can't wait to, because this is just a beautiful, well-designed sauna.
And the day we pulled in here to jump on Glenn's emotional moment there, I had the same feeling, Glenn. The hundreds of hours we put in, we pull it in, we set it up. Yeah. And I hoped one day this sauna would look right out at Lake Superior at that lighthouse.
Yep.
And earlier this week we were able to do that, and I'm sort of tearing up just talking about it, feeling that emotion come up, because when you have big vision, when you're invited into something bigger than yourself that you want to commit to, there is no guarantee that it's going to happen. The amount of work we had, that we did to work with this amazing hotel property, the Inn on Lake Superior, I can't speak highly enough of them. Find the partners who believe in your vision, and then the roadblocks become problems to solve, not insurmountable. And I've watched their team come to me and say, I believe in what you're doing. I believe it's going to add to our experience in our space. And let's solve these things together as a team.
Yeah.
And then it gets easier.
Yeah.
Because then you have more bandwidth, you have more team behind it, and you can break through any issues that you're going to find because you're committed to it together.
Yeah, right on. The multiple oars in the water, paddling in the same direction.
Yeah.
Because it's lonely to be your own show. I mean, this is, I'm going back to my first mobile sauna. I built it, and I didn't have what Justin's saying here. I didn't really have the why, I was just kind of a knucklehead building a mobile sauna. And
they call those pioneers, Glenn.
Okay. And I remember bringing it around on New Year's Day to a polar plunge on Lake Minnetonka outside of Minneapolis. And hundreds of people, do this every New Year's Day. It's a tradition to go, through the hole in the ice and cold plunge and all that. And so the sauna, there it was, and I would bring people in, and they'd be all in there after their cold plunge, like 400 people, Yeah. And then it was a full day affair, and all that energy, I just was wiped out. And then I went home that night, and I said to Julia, and I'm like, what did I sign myself up to? And the point of that story is I was a lone soldier, there was no community and partnership and all that. So to see this being done in this way, in Justin's way, with the mission of reaching out to the community of Duluth and finding collaborators in an operational sense, meaning the hotel, and getting that support.
But even I just to second that, I feel like this has been a project that a community has been building, not one man or one family, and we have worked with some amazing partners. I look at our construction company, which I helped consult with and do some of the build, and then they brought in great craftsmen and women, and they said, okay, let's make this happen. Knutson Custom Construction, they're tremendous builders. If you have a cabin, if you have a home, if you have a business, if you have anything that you want to get built, these folks will do it and do it to the top standards. And so I came to them with a vision, and then that owner said, that sounds like an interesting project. Let's do it together.
And you've been good about that. I've seen, your through the build process and the design process, you've been very inclusive to the creative artists, I'll say, the partners. And it's representative of your attitude about it's we, not me. And yet somebody's got to write the check, and that's you.
Yeah,
it is. The first person, but yeah.
It is, but it's easier to work through the numbers when you're on the same team.
Yeah.
And especially when you don't have all the funding in the world. Maybe somebody's got all the the full bank account, but for us, we said let's try to do this at a high level, and we're a family. I have 2 little kids, 3 and 5, and I want their experience growing up, for their dad to have done something that he knew he was called into, and he gave it a try. And even if down the road this totally implodes and you're listening to this 5 years from now and we don't exist, I think we got a shot. We're going to be around for that long. But if it doesn't, my kids have seen, oh, Dad's gone through a process where he like gets a vision and commits to it and follows through. I hope to build that into my kids one day, you know? And I think Great Sauna does that. It sort of forces you into a challenge to endure it.
Great transition to my next question.
Should we transition to the little cold?
Right. And now, in terms of the challenge, from 1 to 10, how committed are you to jumping into Lake Superior, Justin?
I say this, Glenn. I say the guide always goes first.
Okay. We'll be right back at you. So we just jumped into Lake Superior, and we're in the changing room. And to call it a changing room, I think, is really unfair. I mean, what would you call this room here, Justin?
I call this room the lobby.
Yeah.
And in mobile saunas, not many have lobbies, and not many have lobbies with 11-foot ceilings in it.
Yeah.
And so we built our space on the scale more of a tiny home than a mobile trailer, you know? And we did that because I want it to be a community sauna. I want it to be a space that really has room to breathe. You walk in with these 11-foot ceilings and white walls, and it's airy and high end, you know, in a good way, sort of in a quality way of this Nordic inspired design as you come in.
Yeah. Tell us about what's on the wall here. We're looking in this cool down space on the wall here.
Well, I part of this is storytelling. Part of this is inviting people into an experience. And here in Duluth, we have over 100 years of community sauna in and on these shores, right? And so dotting the hillside of our city and right down in Canal Park here. And so I wanted to help tell that story. So along the way, people are going to come in and they're going to see things like what to expect. And we have, often when we're done with round one, I flip the story to the history. And I've spent time in the archives and I've worked with historians here in Duluth to pull out these stories. And so, Glenn, you're looking at a slideshow of news clippings from the Duluth Evening Herald in 1904 to 1922, clippings and stories that really highlight all of these saunas that were built. And along the way, what they did, and then showing images of Finnish immigrants building the docks for the canal right outside here. And so, I'm really inviting people in this space to learn this cultural treasure of sauna. You get to learn both the wellness aspects to it, you get to learn the history of it, and you get to learn the how-to. And for me, having those guided experiences is really, really important. I'm one of those millennials, who walks in to my coffee shop and I want to know, where did it come from? Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I want to know my craft beer, and I want to hear what kind of hops did they use, and
maybe meet the brewmaster.
And meet the brewmaster, right? And so I think sauna is one of those great, meaningful experiences that I want to help guide people through, and I think people want to be guided through. They want to know, how does it work? What does it do to you? What's happening to your heart?
So how would you respond to somebody who came to Cedar and Stone who doesn't want to hear you talk, doesn't want the guiding?
Yeah.
How do you navigate through that?
Well, what you do, Glenn, is you offer different types of experiences.
Okay.
So
on the front end or as it rolls?
Both, right? So.
Oh, do you want to check the fire, or are you okay?
Yeah, a little pause there.
Ooh, wow. So the difference between a guided sauna experience versus like the free form kind of thing.
Yeah.
Speak to that.
Yeah, I think you create different kind of spaces. And I'm really interested in helping new folks learn the how and the why of sauna. And of course, like many folks, I've grown up with it, and I also love a good sauna where there's a lot of silence. But sauna is a space that's really malleable. It's It's a space where it can be social, it can be silent. And so we're going to do experiences in the mornings with the sunrise looking over Lake Superior that are much more built around silence and solitude. There will be some guiding, and there will be a whole lot more just enjoying it, right, and being a part of it. And our afternoon saunas are going to be built around social connection. They're the happy hour sauna, where you come in with your friends and you come in with people and you get to know people along the way. And so, and then I think you listen to the room. You help guide a few moments, but you're not always in there. You're not always in there telling people what to do at every moment. But you give them enough to learn and enough, and you see what they want.
So your plan as the guide is a hybrid approach. There may be a time where you don't chat about the wall piece with all the history of sauna if it doesn't feel right or what have you. Got it. So do you envision a Justin curated guided sauna session, like in a formal sense, or are you just taking these little elements, guiding elements, and plugging them in when it feels right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it is as structured as the Aufguss process, where you have a sauna meister who's really every step of the way walking people through it. I would say it's creating a room and creating an atmosphere and creating a space for people to connect and learn and ultimately grow. Yeah. And so to do that is less about the teacher and more about the people wanting the experience. And so you read the room and you work with the people and you know the answers, but it's more about asking questions. It's more about asking, hey, what do you want to learn about? Why are you here? What are you hoping for? And if you start there, you can navigate what those people want and what they want to learn about and what they're valuing. As we're starting here, we've hosted a bunch of kind of pop-ups and events, and so many of them have been great for very different reasons. Because whenever you're in there, you're not with the same people, and any one session ends up being the same. And you draw out sort of the best of people, and you hear their stories and what they love.
And that doesn't take guiding. That just flows, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So as a guide, you don't need to be in the hot room. So you've chosen to feed this wood-fired sauna from the outside. So there may be some sessions where you're just hanging out outside, throwing some logs on every once in a while. Was that a conscious decision to do the outside feed?
Yeah, for sure. And I for me, one of the main reasons of that is safety. So in our space, I don't want our participants needing to tend a stove. And so we can manage all of that outside, and we built this beautiful guard. My good friend Joel Vikra and Nick, they are some great craftsmen, and they built our benches and our guard around the stove. And so this is really a space that even my kids and others' kids, they can run in here, and I don't see parents saying, hey, watch out, hey, careful, because it's really encased and enclosed, and yet still you feel the great, that deep heat coming out of this great Kuma stove. Yeah. And so
and as a host, you're not in and out all the time, not all the time, but every once in a while a host needs to come in with some firewood and get things rocking. You can manage that independent of the hot room.
Yeah. And yet at the same time, the stove is an integral part of the process, and people want to ask about it, and people, and so that creates, with the external feed, it creates a focal point outside of the space. It creates another a point of interest for people to ask about.
And gather.
Totally.
And hang out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
So to do that, and that's a design decision we made, and we made hundreds of those along the way as we were building this. that were all made pretty intentionally.
So for those listening, you'll be able to see some great video and photos of the Cedar and Stone sauna here. But you spoke to the element of the cage or the surround that we're looking at here around the stove. Great brickwork around. I love that. I always am a big fan of that kind of brickwork as part of the surround, because it's thermal mass, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And one of the things I like to do is sometimes I'll take a little water and I'll just kind of hit it against the wall as much as the sauna rocks. And it's nice when you have that level of mass, isn't it? And it's not easily to achieve in a mobile environment, but you've done it. So I wanted to call out to, you called out to the benches, which are really special and unique. Anything you want to say on the bench work more than you have?
Well, we wanted a lot of space, and we also wanted to be thoughtful about bench height, right? And getting your sort of feet at the rocks and really getting into the high heat. I've grown up with sauna. I have a lot of high tolerance for it. My grandfather would not be happy if this wasn't a good sauna, right? In terms of how hot it could get and really throw good heat at you. And at the same time, I wanted space for folks who were new and wanted to learn. And my kids, right? And so we had to build a space where think thoughtfully about multiple layers of heat and multiple bench heights. And really, ultimately, I wanted to do it also with some pretty panoramic windows to be in the space that you're in. And so when you're in our space, it's probably about a 10 to 15 person sauna, depending on the type of group and the type of experience we're running. And you can see on each wall there's pretty significant amounts of glass, and that's dual pane, thermally insulated, tempered glass, all custom, so that you can really take in, right now we're watching the sunset and the day is getting long, and it's that sort of golden hour of light on Lake Superior right now. Yeah. And that lighthouse is just beaming out there in this late afternoon sunshine. And then the magic happens when it totally flips over, the lights go out outside, and then underneath the lighting through these benches are slats of cedar, clear cedar. The bench that you and I are on right now is 12 feet long, and cedar strips 12 feet all the way the whole way.
No seams.
Continuous.
And these are one by ones, aren't they? So very narrow, light benching, very soft, curved on the ends, curved underneath, very rolling, a really nice airy rolling bench layout with under bench lighting. And as Justin's talking about here, as the day turns to night, things start to glow in here.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Justin, anything else about this? I know you could probably give a long list of other design and build elements that you've applied, because it's a sauna. There's no question. You come in here and you know it's a sauna, but it has these beautiful, unique features you're speaking about. A lot of glass, stone surround, curved benches, long runs, clear cedar. Anything else you want to draw out to let us know about?
We one other thing, just for folks who like to geek out about building stuff. We built this with a siding material and a high-end material called Rich Light that's sourced from a company called Intextural here in Duluth. They make really high-end building materials, and that product is used and made with paper and resin. So it's like more sustainable in terms of its build and creation process, and then lasts really long and is basically maintenance free throughout. And so our outside there has that. As we're waving at folks running their dog along the way.
They're totally into it.
And so we just worked with some great partners.
Yeah.
And that, again, I think that just strengthens the process when you get to work with great people who know great products and great how to build things really well.
And this material is this the outer skin, or where is that material?
Yeah, so that's our outside. You'll see that all over the outside, and then you'll see it actually on countertops and on our benches in the lobby area when you're cooling down in there. And so
Duluth made product.
it's not made in Duluth, but sourced with a company from Duluth, and so I worked with them on it. And if anybody knows our area, they might have heard of a family of companies called Lowell and Epicurean, and Intextural is one of those as well. Lowell makes amazing outdoor furniture out of milk bottles, and Epicurean makes all these amazing sort of cutlery and kitchen products, and they use a lot of this rich light. So we have rich light cutting boards in our home, and then it also gets used as the siding material. And so, again, all design decisions, but design decisions that were also made based on relationship and community. And most saunas, the way that they've often been made over the years, are simple structures that are often beautiful in their simplicity and beautiful in sourcing them from materials around. So when you ask, what do you put in your sauna? What kind of wood do you use? Well, back in the day, it was always whatever the wood that was there, right? So if it was popple or aspen, that's what they put inside. And traditionally in Finland, it isn't always cedar. Here in the US and in North America, it often is. It's fragrant, it's light, it's soft, all those good things. But so for us, to me, there's part of telling the historical story is also having a community come around to say, let's build this with all these stories of this area, the Duluth area, the people around us.
Lovely.
And let's get all these people on the team to make this thing happen.
Lovely. What do you think is most misunderstood about sauna, Justin? Like, imagine we're sitting here and a couple staying, 30 feet away at this Inn on the Lake. Maybe they're from Utah or whatever, and they come strolling over, and they're gonna immediately draw a judgment to what you've built and created right here. They're an outsider. What, in your experience, what do you think is a common misunderstanding that folks maybe from Utah here or whatever that aren't familiar with sauna? What comes to mind for you?
Well, first, if you're from Utah, we totally invite you. Come on up to Duluth, Minnesota. It's okay. And then also, I think the big misunderstanding for most folks is that sauna isn't a place for me, or that I don't like sauna because I've been in one sauna before that I didn't know what I was doing, right? And so I think rather than assuming that person doesn't like sauna, it's I want to help them experience it in a way that they could consider this is really this could be a valuable, maybe even enjoyable thing in my life. That's why I start with stress, right? Yeah. And as I initially talk with people about it, that's why I don't always start with components that feel really unique. That's why I start with the way that we sort of enter into the space is really important. I often tell people as you enter into the space, you're going to be entering into really warm air. And part of that warm air, it's going to be dry heat. In traditional Finnish sauna, it's high heat, low humidity. But let me tell you about how to breathe in the space. Because sometimes people walk in and they've been in a sauna that's either poorly ventilated or they just aren't ready for the hot air. And so I say, always when you go lower, it's lower. And I'm going to tell you, look, we have thermometers that tell you how hot it is on the high bench and on the low bench to give you that entry point if you want to know the lower space and what that is. And then I say, this is the trick and the pro tip. If you want to really, if that hot air is a little too hot, you can always breathe like you're going to whistle, but with pursing your lips and blowing, and in doing that, you make a smaller space for the air to go through, and it cools down as it goes and enters your lungs. And so little things like that to open the door a little wider in letting more people in, but yet without letting the heat out, is really what we're trying to do. And I think traditional Finnish sauna, like the proverb that you mentioned earlier, is all people are created equal, but nowhere more so than in a sauna. I don't want the sauna pros or the sauna people who have grown up with it, the people who know how to be a barrier for new people coming into it. I want to welcome the new people in because that's what the equity of the space. That's what that proverb saying all people are created equal there. even so much as we ask, are we all ready for steam? It's not this competitive American style, who can handle the heat the longest and who can handle the most steam. That is the American competitive nature bleeding into sauna spaces. We flip that over and we say, hey, the person who's been in here the longest, you've felt the most steam. You're the one who says, should we take some more right now? The new person who's never experienced this before, we want to bend to you and say, hey, how can we make this experience even more enjoyable for you?
Right on. As you think about sauna, Justin, say, like today, you knew you were going to sauna. You came here, you fired up the stove. We went through round 1 together. We did a cool down in Lake Superior. We're on round 2, the Lolu, that whole spectrum. Even when you tuck yourself into bed tonight, what is your favorite moment if you really had to drill it down to one through the sauna experience, the whole spectrum? Yeah. Is there a moment that comes to mind that you love the most?
Yeah, I love so many parts of it, and I've thought about this question a lot because I'm a long-time listener, first-time guest on your podcast here, Glenn. So I've heard you ask this question to a lot of people. For me, it's actually within the cool down is my favorite spot, and when it's February like today, it's hard to get this moment, but in the summer it's easy to get this moment, and especially in the shoulder seasons, it's the moment when you're in the cold plunge, but the water's warmed up around you just a little bit.
Nice.
And you sort of have this cocoon of water that has taken your body heat, and you're in the cold still, but you have this blanket of warmth around you.
Beautifully described, yeah.
And I love it because, I talked a little bit earlier about doing all this inner work. Sauna is one of the first spaces where I began to like silence. I can talk a lot about guided sauna experience. I can talk a lot about loving being social in saunas, and I agree to all those things. But also, because I'm so people focused, I can tend to run away from spaces of silence and contemplation and stillness. And sauna is a space that actually has allowed me to enter into stillness and silence and solitude, which is really healthy for me. Mm-hmm. If you're an extrovert and you're listening to this, right? Like, we love people and we get energy from people, but equally good for us is moments of silence.
Yeah.
And the opposite is true. If you're a person who loves introversion and being yourself in silence and solitude, you need people too, right? It's the balance and moderation of those two poles. And in sauna for me was a way for me to hack my body in a way to say, hey, you know what? You can get into silence and that can be really good and healthy for you. It can be meditative, it can be spiritual, it can be valuable. And that spot, when I'm sitting in the lake in the cold plunge, that is that moment of stillness which I get almost nowhere else in my life. And that's my favorite.
Lovely. I wrote a post that says solo saunas are meant to be. And in my own backyard sauna, it would be like, a typical move would be, oh, it's Friday afternoon, I'm going to do the Friday happy hour sauna, and I'll shoot a few emails or texts out to some usual suspects. And then, just the way the busy world works, and especially on a Friday afternoon, you don't know who's going to respond or show up. And on the side on that one, I always try to time, as a host in my own sauna in the backyard, I will often and usually always try to get out there and have a solo round, right? Yeah. It's a great feeling to be in there, and then you're able to enjoy this full quiet round, to your point, and then nobody showed up yet, and then I can go cool down on my own, and then I do that, and then before I know that, I'm enjoying this great moment of solitude in the cool down space, and then it's like nobody shows up, and I'm like, I could have the best damn sauna when nobody shows up, They're meant to be.
And I think that sort of spiritual component to sauna, I love how there's talk of lolu now, because lolu is a bigger definition than water vapor. When we often translate that just to steam and to water vapor, but in the Finnish definition, it means soul, it means spirit. Yeah. And so as we put water on the rocks to create water vapor, what we're really doing is we're adding soul to the room, we're adding spirit to the room, and there's something more about that. So if you've been in a sauna where there's a big, list of rules, the size of Wyoming on the wall next to it, the size of the door, and it says don't throw water on the rocks. You're in a sauna that they literally just rip the soul right out of it. And it's a different thing. It's okay. It's good for maybe some things, but you aren't in that space of authentic sauna. And why I say that is because I really enjoy the value of the space where there is this component of steam or spirit that's been honed over hundreds of years, maybe longer, to add to the space. And that's the intangible. When Glenn and I start talking about heat, like we listen to music and we talk about it like a music critic, or when we drink wine or food, you comment on it and there's a quality to it. I think that happens in sauna where we're talking about heat, and that almost always involves lolu and steam being a part of the process where you feel that way of heat.
It's where every sauna has its own soul.
Yeah.
If you could sauna with anybody in the world, dead or alive, Justin, maybe in the past or future, and very hypothetically speaking, who's the first person that comes to mind for you to share the sauna bench with?
Glenn, that answer is pretty easy. I would sauna with my great grandfather, Jusepi Juntunen, who immigrated to the U.S. from Suomussalmi, Finland. That town is a little town in Finland about halfway up the country, right on the Russian border. Mm-hmm. And in 1880, he took a crazy trek from his family's homestead farm all the way down to Helsinki, and he got on a boat, and then he went to Sweden, he went to England, and he eventually got to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, made his way to Duluth, and that process of getting there took about 5 years.
No way.
Yeah, so his immigration over was quick, and then he was in Duluth in the UP in Duluth for a number of years, and then he and his now wife at that point had saved up a little bit of money, and they said, should we go back? Should we go back to our homeland? We miss it. This has been a really hard 5 years. And they said, well, there's this property just down the road in Carleton County. It wasn't even a town name yet. It was like an intersection. They called it Esko's Corner because there was a man named Esko, and he lived down there, and they said, there's this property going up for sale. We should probably go look at it before we buy our tickets home. Wow. And he went and he looked over the meadow and the little brook and the river, which is the Midway River in now Esko, Minnesota. And he looked with his wife and he said, okay, I think we should buy this and commit to it. And that was in 1885. And they bought what became the Juntunen farm and homestead, and then what was the Meadowbrook Dairy. They built a dairy farm there. And so then my great-grandfather and grandfather and father grew up on that space.
Unbelievable.
And I would want to sauna with him to see what the story was,
okay.
to see about sauna. And
so let's just say that
in
carrying this hypothetical forward, that you can only memorize enough Finnish to ask him one question. What would you ask him? Now, I'm putting you totally on the spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes the first answer to this is going to be the more interesting one. So again, you got one question. What would you want to ask him?
That's a great.
Should we cool down and let's revisit that?
Let me think on that.
Yeah. And what would that question be?
I would ask him, why did he decide to stay? Yeah. What was the deciding factor to not go home to Finland? Because him deciding to stay, he homesteaded a farm in this little community, and he was one of the founding families, and that sort of continued on to where I'm here today, and my family from him. And so the sort of patriarch, Jusepi, and his wife, and they just were so good they started this long train in our family of commitment to place. Yeah. Nice. And that's the thing that I feel about Duluth right now, is like I'm committing my life to this place. And so I would ask my grandfather, why here? Why'd you commit to this place and not go back home? Yeah, I'd have to learn how to say that in Finnish because I
Yeah.
only know so many Finnish words.
That's right.
And phrases, but
And that's the only question you get.
yeah, that's
The,
what I
the
know.
rest of the time, like a real Finn, you got to sit in
We'd
the
be
sauna
quiet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a pleasure. I mean, I when I was in Finland for 12 days, I realized, and I just did a summary on this. I had 12 interviews. I did 12 Sauna Talk podcasts in 12 days. And what I love about Sauna Talk is it's like each time I do it, it's like for some reason I seem to fall on special occasions. And this one was almost like a calling. Like we had initially set up this interview. I think I was going to try to come up a few days ago, and you were very welcoming. You're like, "Come on up, it'll be great. We can do this." But how fitting that we get to sit here in this, like you said, the golden hour, and look out over Lake Superior and share this moment with listeners.
Yeah,
the Sauna Talk. It's really
absolutely.
awesome.
Thanks for being here, Glenn.
Yeah, man, it's great. So, last question. We did the favorite, and this favorite moment of sauna, and this is a really, this question is going to be kind of very unfair or very fair and appropriate to ask you, but I ask everybody, if you could have a mobile sauna, which already the question isn't accurate because you do have a mobile sauna, so, and you could go anywhere, you could bring your sauna anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Right here, Glenn. I know that sounds trite, but it is so true that there's nowhere else. I was telling Glenn that we pulled it in here the other day, and I looked out the windows from it, and I was beginning to tear up, and that the reality of that, of committing to this process and working tirelessly and long hours and blood, sweat, and tears to build this thing, and now here we're here. I wouldn't have it anywhere else, and the way that happened feels like I had a friend in here the other day. We were at an event. We ran an event somewhere else, but we were talking. He said, you're built for this. He just saw that sort of passion in me and the excitement around it, and I said, yeah, I think I am. Like I'm following a dream and a passion, and I'm oddly prepared to do it, and I want to invite other people into it. And so if you're somebody who's considered starting a sauna business or guiding people through it, like I want to cheer you on. I want to be your biggest cheerleader as somebody who's doing it and knows how hard it is. Like reach out. I want to be somebody just like Glenn has been for me, of just like that you can have go-to people to talk you through the hard days and the good days. And I wouldn't have anything else but to be doing it here in the city that I love, right on the shores of Lake Superior, which Glenn just jumped in. We just jumped in together. It's great.
Beautiful answer. I mean, I hate comparing and all that. I really don't try to compare, and I've probably asked this mobile sauna question to dozens. Well, I know I've asked it to dozens of people through Sauna Talk, and you can probably excerpt all of the answers out of them. I don't think there could be a better answer than your answer. And it is so fitting and so friggin' true about the beauty of where you've created this intention and the sauna and the place, and it is absolutely gorgeous. You have this wonderful water element, but it's so fitting for Justin because this is nature, but it's also community. And this is Canal Park, and this has such history, as Justin explained about the Finnish history of this area and the saunas that existed in eye shot from where we're sitting. Yeah. And you can feel it. I mean, that's the sauna brings this feeling forward, and it's so fitting for you. It's this location. It is the most beautiful spot in the world for Justin Juntunen to have a mobile sauna.
And I've been honored to share it with you, Glenn. Thanks for being here. And if anybody else wants to join us, we'd love to host you here in Duluth. Cedar and Stone, NordicSauna.com. And follow what Glenn's doing. I'd follow what we're up to here in the north. And we got more sauna rounds to go, right, Glenn?
Yeah, man. This is just the beginning.
All right.